Good morning, everyone. I am Marcel Brown, the most trusted name in technology, and today is February 10th, 2017. It's time for another Facebook Live Friday where I talk about all things tech and maybe some other things if I feel like it. First thing, I just discovered this yesterday, but apparently it's been going on all week, so if you want to take advantage of it, you might want to jump on it. But apparently, Target is having a sale on Apple Watches. And if you're interested in an Apple Watch, there are two things to know. Basically, there's the two types of Apple Watches. Series 2 is the newest, latest one. Has a lot of nice features as far as water resistance, improved water resistance from the original Apple Watch, and some other things to go along with it. But the other Apple Watch is called the Series 1, which is basically the original Apple Watch with the more powerful processor that's included in the Series 2 Apple Watch. So it's actually it's a very good deal if you want to save some money on an Apple Watch and you don't really need to take advantage of the newer features in the Series 2 Apple Watch. The Apple Watch Series 1 is actually a very good deal because it has that improved processor in it. And FYI, if you own an original Apple Watch, they are now called Series 0 to differentiate from Series 1 and Series 2. Yeah, a little confusing, I agree. So, but anyway, if you're looking for a deal on Apple Watch, apparently this week Target has a sale. I don't know how much longer it's going to last, so I'd go ahead and jump on it while you can. Speaking of Apple, and Apple Watch is actually the competitor Android watches, what they call an Android Wear 2.0 was introduced or released I believe last week or this week, and I'm going to guess most of you haven't heard much about it. And so far, from what I've understood, the sales are basically insignificant, especially compared to the Apple Watch. So I don't know if Target timed the sale to coincide with that or what the deal was, but just know that there are competitors, but for the most part they aren't selling much at all. So Apple Watch is still the king of the smartwatches. That being said, the smartwatch market definitely has room to grow. But so another bit of Apple news, interesting little tidbit that I read. Snapchat, or the company is called Snap Incorporated, I believe. They did their filing for an initial public offering. Yeah, geeky technical stuff or financial stuff, I agree. But there was one little their IPO actually was very interesting as far as what they described in their company. And one of the little nuggets in there was that according to Snap, their Snapchat application, the majority of users are iPhone users. And I think most people would say, well, yeah, that seems to make sense. But here's what a lot of people don't know is that as of late last year, Android actually had worldwide an 88% market share, which basically means in that last quarter of last year, 88% of phones sold worldwide were Android phones. Now, so you would think that, well, if Android has almost a 90% market share, then why would applications like Snap see more users on iPhone? And that is a very good question. One of the untold secrets, I think in the general public, the perception is that the iPhone is very strong, and it certainly is. It sells millions and millions of phones. And then obviously Samsung phones are also well known, and then followed by a bunch of other phones that some people may be aware of or not. But if you are in tech circles, Android seems to be very strong. I think the reason for this is because, one, a lot of Android sales, and that's why I say sales, are not actually sales to consumers, but they're sales to wholesalers. So where Apple only counts sales to the consumer, actual phone activations, a lot of Android resellers count sales that go into wholesale distribution. So it's not really a sale as much as it is just a transfer from the manufacturer to the wholesaler. But the reason this is important is because if you're someone like an app developer, or if you're a company that is looking to deploy a smartphone technology, you want to make sure that your platform is strong. And while Android appears to be a strong platform, sales-wise, the reality is that more and more people actually take advantage or use their iPhones for things like downloading apps, making purchases, this sort of thing. And that trend's been around for years. So if you hear anybody talking about, hey, Android sales are stronger than Apple and Apple's done for, or whatever the talk is, you can just point to the fact that, well, Apple's making more money on their iPhones than most Android providers are, but also the numbers show that the Apple market, the actual usage, the app sales, all that stuff is also very strong. So it should be a competitive market for many years. I don't think anybody's in danger of falling out of the market. So now for a couple questions I've had this week. Related to the Super Bowl, actually, H&R Block had a bunch of commercials talking about their integration with IBM Watson. And I think the main question is like, what is Watson? Why should I even care? What the heck is Watson? That doesn't make any sense. And I think H&R Block / IBM maybe missed the boat on this a little bit. IBM is very proud of their Watson, and what Watson is, it's basically a massive supercomputer that IBM in effect rents out or makes available to other companies to take advantage of this massive computing power. And what makes Watson different than other supercomputers is that it's basically also a massive information bank. It's almost, you can call it artificial intelligence, but it's not quite there, and at least not in the science fiction type of Terminator, Skynet sort of thing that people think of as artificial intelligence. But it's very similar to that concept in that this Watson supercomputer can take this massive store of information, augmented by the internet as well, and be able to, in effect, seem very human-like in its ability to answer questions or look up information or do data analysis. So blah, blah, blah. It's a supercomputer, it's very smart, whatever. But I think IBM has been talking about Watson for years now, but most people in the mainstream don't care, don't understand what it is. It just goes right over their head, and I understand that. So by H&R Block talking about how Watson's going to help them find more deductions in your tax returns and this sort of thing, for me, from a technology perspective, I'm like, well, that's could be a great way to leverage that technology. But I think from a marketing perspective, I think most people, it just went right over their heads and they could care less, especially when it comes to a really boring topic like taxes. So for some people, let's combine two boring topics, technology and taxes, and that's not a good marketing campaign in my mind. Anyway, but if you're curious, that's what Watson is. And it'll be interesting to see how well that works out for H&R Block, because if it does work out well, that could then be a better, they could come back with their marketing that way. Another question, kind of a vague type of questions I get, is about internet services. And just so you know, this week I went to a new client that had really old networking equipment, and they were getting Charter service, 100 megabit service, but their real throughput was in the single digits. So they were basically 90% of their speed they weren't getting. So basically just replacing their really old wireless router with a new wireless router made that work out real well. Now they're getting over 100 megabits from Charter. So, but related to that, people ask various questions about what's the best internet provider to get, what speed should they be looking for, all this sort of thing. And kind of what it comes down to is I get these questions after the fact, and this pertains to, say, someone moves into a house somewhere and suddenly they realize, oh, I can't get the internet I used to be able to get, so now what do I do? Or they move into a new house and suddenly their cellular service is really bad in that new location. Or a business, unfortunately, may pick a location that seems like a great location for their business, but guess what? They may not be able to get good internet there. And I think if you're a business and you've got bad internet, that's almost like having a business with really bad water service. You just can't. It's so critical to your operation of your business, you can't ignore the internet service availability in a location before you decide to move there or move your business or start a business or this sort of thing. So it kind of goes along with a lot of themes I talk about to my clients or to potential clients or trying to educate people, is that when you make business decisions or even life decisions now, a lot of that you need to think about the technology implications. So if you're a business and you're going to start, or if you're starting a business and you're going to talk to a lawyer and a banker and an accountant and all these type of people, most business people don't think to talk to a technology advisor first. And then they get into the situations like I described where suddenly they finally think about the technology, but it's too late. They've already chosen a location, or they've already tried to purchase equipment or whatever. And it's very difficult to fix mistakes or problems after the fact for situations like that it is to take care of head off problems before you run into them. So the moral of the story is, if you're going to go move into a new house, find out what kind of internet service they have there. Take your cell phones, walk around the house with your cell phones and check the signal strength. Now, if there are problems, you're going to have to decide what can you do about them. As far as cellular signal strength, there are some things you can do to mitigate that. But if you're, say, moving out into the middle of the country and you can't get cable internet, you can't get DSL, or maybe it's really bad DSL service, maybe your only option is wireless, but you got to check to see what is the quality of that service out there. So just a word of advice, and this again is especially important for businesses. There are a lot of places, even in urbanized areas, that you can't necessarily get the fastest internet service at that location, and it may take a while before they build out there, if ever, depending on where that location is at. So especially if you're a business, check the internet connectivity in a location before you decide to move. And in general, you should be consulting with a technology expert ahead of time before you make major business decisions, so that you can be brought up to speed on all these types of technology implications that might bite you in the butt if you're not careful. So anyway, that's another Facebook Live Friday with me, Marcel Brown, the most trusted name in technology. Certainly if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page or my webpage, marcelbrown.com, and I'll see you all next Friday.